Imagine marrying into a family that treats you like their precious daughter-in-law, only to realize they see you as nothing more than a walking ATM. I thought I was building a life full of love, until I uncovered a hidden pre-wedding contract with my forged signature. That was the day I decided. If they wanted to play games with me, I'd end the game once and for all. My name is Emily. I grew up in Ohio, in a quiet suburban home with a porch swing that squeaked every summer evening. My dad was the kind of man whose laugh could be heard down the block, and my mom carried the scent of cinnamon and fresh laundry on her clothes. We weren't rich, but we were content. I never measured my worth in dollars. My parents taught me that love and integrity were enough. When Michael came into my life, he seemed like the answer to every whispered prayer. He was charming without arrogance, polite in a way that felt old-fashioned. He listened. Really listened. His family carried weight in the community. They owned businesses, sponsored events, and were spoken of as pillars of respectability. I thought I was lucky. I thought I had stumbled into a love that was steady, safe, and good. Our wedding looked like something out of a magazine. Lace, laughter, champagne toasts. People clapped until their hands went raw when we danced. I wore the smile of someone who believes her life is beginning. And when I moved into Michael's family home, a stately house with polished wood floors and framed photographs of generations past, I thought I had stepped into security. But comfort has a way of disguising cages. The first sign was small. My mother-in-law complimented a necklace I wore, then casually suggested it would work better as an investment. She said it like she was offering me weather advice. Michael backed her up with soft words. "It's for the family, Emily. You'll thank me later." I brushed it off, but soon there were more requests. Bracelets, rings, savings bonds I had tucked away. Each item disappeared into their so-called family business. At first, the excuses sounded believable. A shipment delayed. A vendor defaulting. An unexpected tax bill. They wrapped their lies in financial jargon I didn't understand, and every time I questioned them, I became the villain. Michael would look at me with wounded eyes, like I was betraying him by not trusting his family. His mother would sigh as if I were ungrateful. Soon I found myself apologizing for even asking where my money had gone. Then, one rainy afternoon, while organizing Michael's study, I found a file hidden behind tax folders. Inside was a pre-wedding contract. My name was on it. My signature, too. Except I had never signed it. The clauses were brutal. My jewelry and savings were to be absorbed into the family business. If the marriage ended, I would walk away with nothing. Any inheritance I received in the future would automatically belong to them. My blood turned cold. They had planned this before I even walked down the aisle. This wasn't a family. It was a trap disguised as love. I didn't confront them right away. I remembered a night class I once took about business law. The professor had said something that stuck with me. Anger burns fast. Evidence endures. So I chose silence, strategic silence. I reached out to an attorney, Mrs. Johnson, who read the contract with tight lips. She looked at me and said, "This is fraud, forgery. If you want justice, you need more than shock. You need proof. Build your case." So I played the perfect daughter-in-law. I smiled. I nodded. I let them believe I was theirs to control. Meanwhile, I recorded conversations, saved texts, and tracked every suspicious transfer. My phone became my shield. At night, while they slept, I built spreadsheets. I became fluent in the language of money, because survival demanded it. But then, strange things began happening. Transfers they tried to make would bounce back. Anonymous emails started arriving at vendors, warning them of shady deals. Once, a massive wire transfer to a shell company was reversed at the last second, saving a local contractor from financial collapse. The family blamed hackers. Michael's father muttered about a rat. I kept these anomalies in mind. Something, or someone, else was moving in the shadows. The breaking point came 6 months later. I invited the entire family to dinner. I served them their favorite dishes, poured them wine, smiled like nothing was wrong. And then, after dessert, I dimmed the lights and turned on the projector. One by one, I played the recordings. My mother-in-law demanding my jewelry. my sister-in-law persuading me to sign over assets, Michael himself urging me to stay silent. Their own voices filled the room like knives cutting through their polished facades. Finally, I held up the forged contract. My voice didn't shake when I said, "This is fraud, and I will not be your victim." For a moment, silence. Their faces pale. The patriarch tried to bluster, to deny. But then I saw it. Michael's face. Not pale with guilt, but twisted with something else. Fear. Regret. Later that night, when we were alone, he confessed. The contract was real, but he hadn't forged it. His father and the family accountant had. Months before the wedding, Michael had discovered their scheme. He threatened to expose them. They threatened him back. They said if he didn't cooperate, they would marry off his younger sister to a dangerous partner in an overseas deal. They used his love for his sister as leverage. Michael said he had married me not to help them, but to fight them from within. He had been quietly sabotaging their scams, reversing transfers, leaking emails to vendors, protecting me in ways I hadn't seen. He showed me encrypted USB drives he had hidden in his jacket, filled with ledgers, proof of money laundering, shell companies, and fraudulent accounts. He had been a double agent in his own home. I wanted to scream, to love him, to hate him. He had lied, but for reasons that twisted between survival and love. I didn't forgive him instantly. But I realized, if his evidence was real, then together we could bring the entire empire down. We went to Mrs. Johnson with everything. My recordings, his encrypted drives. She listened, stunned. She told us this wasn't just fraud. This was federal crime. Within weeks, the FBI was involved. Undercover agents traced the shell companies, raided offices, and froze accounts. Court subpoenas flew like arrows. The very house that once felt like my prison became the stage for federal officers carrying out boxes of evidence. When the trial began, the family's empire crumbled. Michael's father was charged with fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. His mother with financial coercion. Even the accountant faced prison. Neighbors who once whispered behind my back came forward as witnesses. They too had lost savings to the family's schemes. But victory didn't taste sweet. It tasted like ashes and relief. Michael's reputation was scarred. My parents endured gossip. His sister cried for months, broken by the truth of her bloodline. Yet out of the wreckage, something new grew. Michael and I rebuilt. Carefully, painfully, with open books, separate accounts, and a vow to never let silence become a cage again. People ask me if I regret marrying him. I don't. Because regret means wishing away the lessons that shaped you. What I gained was sharper than innocence. I learned that silence can be a weapon if you choose when to break it. I learned that love can survive betrayal, but only if truth is given room to breathe. And I learned that sometimes, the only way to end the game is to flip the board entirely. Imagine marrying into a family that treats you like their precious daughter-in-law, only to realize they see you as nothing more than a walking ATM. I thought I was building a life full of love, until I uncovered a hidden pre-wedding contract with my forged signature. That was the day I decided, if they wanted to play games with me, I'd end the game once and for all. My name is Emily. I grew up in Ohio, in a modest house where kindness mattered more than money. My parents taught me that love was currency enough, and I carried that faith into adulthood. So when I met Michael, I thought I had found a man who mirrored those values. He was charming, attentive, and spoke about building a future where I would never feel alone. His family was well respected, business owners, donors to community causes, people whose names carried weight. I believed I was walking into a family of honor. Our wedding was a dream. Smiles, champagne, silk dresses, photographs that could make strangers jealous. When I moved into Michael's family home, I thought I was stepping into a safe haven, but a house can look like a castle and still be a cage. It started with small requests. My mother-in-law admired my earrings, then suggested we invest them. Michael echoed her with soft reassurances. Soon, it wasn't just jewelry. It was my savings, my bonds, everything I had built for my independence. They called it investment. I called it trust. But that trust became a rope tightening around my neck. Every time I questioned where the money went, I became the problem. Michael would act wounded, His mother would sigh in disappointment, and I was made to feel like an ungrateful outsider. Slowly, I stopped asking. Slowly, I felt myself disappearing. And then, one afternoon, I found the file. A pre-wedding contract, hidden behind old bills. My name was printed on it, my signature scrawled at the bottom. Except it wasn't mine. The clauses were brutal. Every piece of jewelry, every dollar of savings, every inheritance, all belonged to Michael's family. If the marriage ended, I'd leave with nothing. My heart froze. This wasn't an accident. This was a trap, designed before the vows were even spoken. My entire marriage was a setup, and I was the prize to be bled dry. I didn't explode. I didn't confront. I remembered something a teacher once said: when they expect noise, give them silence. Silence unsettles the guilty. So I stayed quiet. I reached out to a lawyer, Mrs. Johnson, who confirmed what I already knew. The contract was fraudulent, the signature forged. She looked at me and said, "If you want justice, don't shout, build." So I played the perfect wife. I smiled at Michael. I laughed at his father's jokes. I let his mother think I was obedient. All the while, I recorded conversations, saved texts, tracked suspicious transfers. My phone became my secret weapon. At night, while they slept, I built spreadsheets and mapped out every shady deal I could trace. But as I dug deeper, something darker surfaced. Michael wasn't just going along with his family's scheme. He was the architect. The forged contract had been his idea. The accounts were in his name. The sweet man I thought I married was nothing more than a polished con artist. He had played his role so well that I mistook manipulation for love. The Michael who once held my hand and promised safety was the same man laughing behind closed doors about how easily I had fallen into his trap. I felt my world break. But in that breaking, something inside me hardened. If he thought I would collapse, he was wrong. I decided that if Michael and his family saw me as a pawn, I would rewrite the game board. 6 months later, I invited them all to dinner. They came dressed in confidence, oblivious to what I had prepared. I served them food with a steady hand, pretending nothing was wrong. And then, when dessert was done, I dimmed the lights. The projector flickered on. One by one, the recordings played. My mother-in-law demanding my jewelry. My sister-in-law pushing me to sign papers. And Michael, my husband, instructing me to stay quiet, to trust him, to not embarrass the family. Their own voices betrayed them. The room fell into silence, thick and suffocating. I held up the forged contract. My voice was steady when I said, "You planned to strip me of everything. But you forgot one thing. I'm smarter than you think." Michael's face twisted, not in guilt, but in rage. He didn't deny it. He didn't beg. He leaned across the table and sneered, "You should have played your part, Emily. We could have had it all. Now you've ruined everything." That was the moment I realized he never loved me. I wasn't his partner. I was his paycheck. The following weeks were a blur of legal battles, but I wasn't alone. Mrs. Johnson connected me with federal investigators. It turned out Michael's family wasn't just scamming me. They had bled dozens of families dry, destroyed small businesses, and laundered money through shell corporations. The FBI moved quickly once the evidence was in their hands. Subpoenas were issued. Accounts frozen. Homes raided. The empire Michael's family had built over decades collapsed like a house of cards in the wind. The courtroom was where the final mask fell. I sat across from Michael as he smirked, confident he could charm the jury like he once charmed me. But charm doesn't erase recordings. It doesn't erase bank transfers and forged signatures. It doesn't erase the truth. Witness after witness testified. Victims who had been silenced finally spoke. Michael's smile faded with each passing day. The verdict was guilty, on all counts. Fraud, conspiracy, forgery. Michael and his family were sentenced to years in prison. Their empire dissolved. Their reputation, once untouchable, shattered beyond repair. When it was over, people asked me if I felt victorious. I didn't. Victory implies joy. What I felt was colder, sharper. I felt vindicated. I had walked into their home as prey and walked out as the hunter. I didn't get back the years I lost, or the innocence they stole. But I reclaimed something far more important, my power. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, not with illusions of love, but with hard-earned freedom. And if anyone ever asks me what I learned, I tell them this. Evil often wears the mask of family, of love, of safety. but masks slip. And when they do, you have two choices: break or rise. I chose to rise.